And I just wanted to take a moment to A, introduce myself, and B, share my story of why I am so obsessed with raising your vibration and what that means for you. So, my name's Kelly, and I am the founder of the Badass Babe community membership and mindset and success coach. And I wanted to share a brief story of what I call the shift. So, this is a part of my story I haven't really opened up about yet and shared yet. So, thank you for holding space for me and listening to the shift. So, this was during the quarantine pandemic. So, going back a year plus to right when we went into quarantine. So, March, basically, right when everything hit the fan and our world just turned upside down. So, during that month, I was already 4 months post miscarriage and post molar pregnancy, which means I had a 9-month ban on my uterus to make sure that there wasn't any abnormal cells that could turn to cancer. So I was living in a state of fear. I was living in a state of holy F, what's happening to my life? I didn't process it yet. I was on the verge of being like, let me process what's going on in my life and this loss. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic hit. We went into quarantine. And so all of my distractions of leaving the house, going to teach classes, going to hang out with friends, all of those distractions were cut out of my life, as I'm sure you're like, yeah, been there, totally hear you with that. And all those distractions were taken away. So it was me being left with, oh my God, I have to process what's going on in my life and feel my feelings. And I don't want to. I'm not ready to feel my feelings because I'm scared of what I'm going to feel and what's going to come through. So in quarantine, my uterus was on quarantine ban, and so was the rest of the world. So that took me into a really, really dark, dark place, right? We were basically isolated from everyone. I felt isolated from myself. I felt isolated from all relationships in my life. And I numbed myself out with wine and weed like no other. And there is nothing wrong with alcohol. There is nothing wrong with smoking. I took it to a different degree where I took myself from here to a totally different dimension because I didn't want to feel anything that was going on in my mind. I didn't want to process. I didn't want to acknowledge. I wanted to avoid. So I smoked myself to an oblivion for months. I drank bottles of wine. I ordered cases of champagne. That was my drink of choice. And I just avoided everything. And then one day I felt myself feel really sick, like really, really, really sick. And I knew that the sickness was stemming from my feelings that were stuck here, and down here, right? In the chakras. And I felt myself just feel so low, so heavy, and such in a dark place. And I was like, what is coming through? I think I'm ready to feel this. I think I'm ready for the shift, right? I don't want to live in this darkness anymore. I don't want to feel this feeling of fear, of disappointment, of self-doubt, of I'm not good enough, of I'm not worthy, of I don't deserve to have the life that I want for myself. And I knew that I was ready to shift. So in that moment, I allowed myself to acknowledge, okay, there's a lot of disappointment here. There's a lot of fear here that feels stuck in my body. So I shared that disappointment with others. I allowed myself to acknowledge that. And I shared that with my husband, which was like the most vulnerable thing ever. And the second I shared that, I gave myself permission to release and to let go and to acknowledge what I wanted for myself. And day by day, I signed up for a mindset course and training. And day by day, I allowed myself to shift out of the darkness, out of that self-sabotage and into the light. So once I found that shift in the light, I'm like, this is everything. And this is what I want every woman to feel because it is your birthright to shine. It is your birthright to share your true essence, your soul, your gifts with the world without dimming your light, without hiding to please others, and to let your freaking self shine. So that is my story on the shift. And I wanted to share that with you before we tapped into everything that we're about to shift for you today.